My name is Alex Monroe. I'm 39 years old, and I've spent the last 14 years serving in the Army. I've been trained to handle tough situations, to keep my cool when everything around me falls apart. But nothing could have prepared me for the war I would face right inside my own home. You see, I always believed in loyalty, in trust. I believed my wife and I were partners in everything, building a life, a future, a family. We worked hard. We saved every penny we could. Together, we built what we thought was our safe place, a home, a nest egg, a dream we'd planned to grow. But then came the day I found out the truth. The day everything I thought I knew shattered. It started with a message, a simple PDF file sent to my email. At first, I thought it was just another bill or some work document. But when I opened it, my world flipped upside down. The file showed something no husband wants to see. Our entire life savings. Gone. Gone because my wife had taken every dollar and invested it with another man. A business she started with her lover. I was numb. I couldn't believe it. How could the person I trusted most betray me like this? How could she risk everything we had, everything we dreamed of, for someone else? But that wasn't even the worst part. She never told me a thing. Not a word. Not a hint. She hid it from me, from our family, from everyone. I was left to find out the hard way, by myself, alone, in the dark. I remember sitting there, staring at that file on my screen, my hands shaking, my heart racing. The world I'd built felt like it was burning down around me. But instead of breaking, something inside me snapped awake. This wasn't just about money. It was about trust, about respect, about everything I thought our marriage stood for. And I knew I had to do something. Because this betrayal? It wasn't going to be the end of me. What happened next changed my life forever. And it's the story I'm about to tell you. Before all of this happened, I honestly thought I had it all figured out. Life wasn't perfect. Nobody's is. But I believed my marriage was solid. My wife, Emily, and I met back when I was still in the early days of my military career. She was this bright, warm person who made me feel like I was more than just a soldier. She called me her hero, not because of the uniform, but because I made her feel safe. We had dreams. Simple ones, but powerful. A house in the suburbs, kids running around in the yard, a future where we could retire peacefully. We saved diligently. I worked long hours away from home, and she kept things together on the home front. We both sacrificed. We believed in each other. There were moments that felt perfect. Lazy Sunday mornings with coffee, quiet dinners, laughter echoing through the rooms. I thought those were the signs of a healthy marriage, the kind you hear about but don't always see. But looking back now, I realized that some cracks had already started to form. At first, they were little things I brushed aside. A missed call here. A message that she quickly hid when I walked in. A sudden change in her schedule. She was spending more time on her phone, but when I asked, she always had an excuse. She's just stressed, I told myself. She always smiled when I asked about her day, but sometimes that smile didn't reach her eyes. Sometimes I caught her staring out the window, lost in thought. I asked if something was wrong, and she'd say everything was fine. But things weren't fine. I remember one night, sitting in our living room after she'd gone to bed, I found a receipt. Not for groceries, not for utilities, a large amount, sent to a business I'd never heard of. I kept it to myself. I told myself I was overthinking. Maybe she was investing in something to help us. I wanted to believe. She used to call me her hero. She used to tell me I was the man she wanted to grow old with. We talked about the future so many times. Plans for kids, for travel, for retirement. I thought those were real conversations, real promises. And then, without warning, everything changed. One day, she stopped talking about the future. One day, her calls stopped coming in the middle of my shifts. One day, I realized I didn't recognize the woman I married anymore. But I was still holding on, because that's what love makes you do. And that's when the doubt started gnawing at me. Why was she distant? Why was she secretive? What was she hiding? I stayed silent. I watched. I waited. Because deep down, I knew something wasn't right. I started noticing things, little things that didn't add up, but I still couldn't put my finger on the whole picture. The silent phone, the locked screens, the hushed conversations that stopped the moment I walked in. I felt like a stranger in my own home. Emily had always been open about everything, or so I thought. But suddenly, her phone was glued to her hand, and when I asked, she said it was work stuff. Work stuff, but late into the night, past midnight, sometimes at 2 or 3 a.m. I stayed silent. I told myself not to jump to conclusions. After all, I was trained to stay calm under pressure. I was a soldier. So, I watched and waited. I observed how she walked out early in the mornings, sometimes coming back late with a fake excuse. She was distant, cold, and more careful about what she said. And then came the nights when I couldn't sleep, and I heard her phone buzzing in the dark. One message after another, a conversation that she hid the second I stirred. One night, around 2:07 a.m., her phone lit up in a way that made my heart drop. She jumped up, grabbed it fast, and left the room. I followed, but she slammed the door behind her. That was the moment when I knew this wasn't just about distance or stress anymore. Something was terribly wrong. I didn't say anything to anyone. I kept this secret inside me because I wasn't ready to face the truth. I told myself I would find out on my own, that I'd get to the bottom of this. But every day, the silence between us grew louder. The warmth was gone. The woman who used to smile at me like I was the center of her world was now a stranger, cold and distant. She started talking less about we and more about me. I felt invisible, like a ghost wandering through my own house. Financially, things began to unravel too. I noticed bills piling up, withdrawals from accounts I didn't recognize. But when I asked, Emily just brushed it off. It's nothing. I was drowning in doubt and confusion, but I stayed calm, waiting for proof. Proof that I could hold on to. Something concrete to explain the empty space between us. I became an expert at watching without being seen. I memorized her schedule, her calls, her texts. I learned to read her expressions when she thought I wasn't looking. But the worst part was knowing that my worst fears might be true, that the woman I loved was slipping away, and I was powerless to stop it. That night, everything changed. It wasn't a movie moment with shouting or crying. No, it was quiet, painfully quiet. But it shattered me. I was sitting alone in the living room, pretending to watch TV, but my mind was racing. I kept replaying everything I'd seen, every suspicious detail. I knew I needed answers. Then my phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number, but what caught my eye was the timing, 2:07 a.m. Just like her phone had lit up the night before. Curious and desperate, I opened it. The message wasn't for me. It was from her lover. The words cut like a knife. Don't worry, everything's set. We're moving forward with the business. Your husband will never suspect a thing. My heart sank. I grabbed her phone. I know it sounds crazy, but I had to know the truth. As I scrolled through, the messages painted a clear picture of betrayal. Secret plans, stolen money, lies wrapped in sweet words. It was all real. I felt numb. My hands trembled, but my mind was already shifting from heartbreak to something else, determination. I didn't cry that night. Instead, I started planning. I knew this wasn't just about the money or the betrayal. It was about justice. About showing her that she couldn't destroy my life and walk away unscathed. I sat down and made a list. Proof to gather. Contacts to call. Steps to take. I had to be smart, calm, and methodical. I'd been trained for battles, and this was my war now. But it was one I'd fight quietly, with precision. No yelling. No screaming. Just results. Because sometimes, the coldest revenge is the most powerful. That night marked the end of who I was, and the beginning of what I'd become. After that night, I became someone else. Someone calm, calculated, and relentless. The pain was still there, burning under the surface, but I buried it deep. Showing weakness wouldn't help me now. What I needed was proof, facts. Something solid enough to bring down the woman who destroyed everything I believed in. Step 1 was gathering evidence. I couldn't rely on my memory or gut feeling anymore. I needed cold, hard proof. I started by quietly tracking every transaction. I dug into our bank statements, credit cards, and even our joint accounts. It didn't take long to find what I suspected. Large sums of money missing, transferred to a business account I'd never heard of. I took screenshots, downloaded PDFs, and made physical copies. At the same time, I needed to know more about her partner. I researched him online, found his business ties, and even uncovered a few legal issues he'd had in the past. That gave me leverage. I could hit where it hurt. I also installed discreet apps on her phone, not to spy on every message, but to keep a silent watch on her location and contacts. I had to stay one step ahead. Late nights became my new normal. I was poring over documents, making phone calls to lawyers, financial advisors, and private investigators. Every call, every meeting, added pieces to the puzzle. My lawyer was sharp and ruthless. I told him everything. No sugarcoating, no hiding emotions. We planned the legal approach, freeze assets, file for fraud, and prepare for a custody battle if needed. The best part? She had no idea. She was living her double life, thinking I was oblivious, that I'd never fight back. But she forgot one thing. I'm not someone who backs down. I've been trained to win wars, not by shouting or anger, but with patience and precision. Every day, I grew stronger. Every day, I prepared to strike. But I didn't rush. I waited for the perfect moment. Because revenge isn't about impulsive acts, it's about delivering a blow so clean, so final, it leaves no room for doubt. And when that moment came, I'd be ready. The day I'd been preparing for finally arrived. The day I would bring everything into the light. I woke up that morning with a strange mix of calm and determination. No anger, no desperation. Just clarity. I had my lawyer on speed dial, my evidence organized in neat folders, digital and physical, and a plan so airtight it couldn't be ignored. The first move was to confront her, but not face to face. That was a trap she set for me for years, and I refused to fall into it. Instead, I sent her a letter, a simple, cold message outlining everything I knew, every lie she'd told, every dollar she'd stolen. I made it clear that I wasn't playing anymore. Her response was silence. That silence was louder than any shout. A few days later, the legal battle began. I filed the papers, freezing the business accounts, demanding a full audit, and seeking custody arrangements that would protect what little stability was left for our kids. Court dates were scheduled. Lawyers exchanged harsh words and even harsher documents. But through it all, I stayed silent and composed. The courtroom was tense the first time I stepped in. I could feel eyes on me, some curious, some judgmental. But I was ready. When my lawyer played the audio files we gathered, conversations between her and her lover plotting the takeover of our life savings, the room went silent. That silence was my victory. Her smug smile disappeared. The judge's face was unreadable but stern. And me? I felt a weight lift off my chest. I wasn't just fighting for money or justice. I was fighting to reclaim my dignity, my family's future, and my own peace of mind. Days later, social exposure came. Details leaked to friends, neighbors, and even co-workers. She tried to spin stories, to paint me as the villain, but the evidence was overwhelming. And the truth? It always finds a way to shine through. In the end, she lost everything. Not just the money, but the respect and trust she had destroyed. And me? I rebuilt. Not with bitterness, but with strength. Because sometimes, the greatest revenge isn't in what you take. It's in what you rebuild after it's all gone. Months passed since the courtroom drama, and life started to settle into a new normal, a quieter, simpler existence. I moved out of the house we once shared, found a modest apartment nearby, and focused on rebuilding what truly mattered: my relationship with my kids, my peace of mind, and myself. The money was gone, most of it drained by legal fees and the fallout of her betrayal. But what she couldn't touch was my resolve. I realized that the real loss wasn't the savings or the broken promises. It was the illusion of what I thought our life was. Sometimes, people show their true colors when you least expect it. But the lesson I learned was clear. You can't control others, but you can control how you respond. I started therapy, not because I was weak, but because I needed to heal. I surrounded myself with friends who reminded me of my worth and purpose. And slowly, very slowly, I began to trust again, not blindly, but with caution and strength. The experience taught me that betrayal cuts deep, but it doesn't have to define you. What defines you is how you rise from the ashes. She took everything, our house, our savings, even my trust, but she didn't take my soul. I rebuilt my life on my own terms, for my kids, and for me. And that's a victory no one can steal. If you're watching this and feeling broken, betrayed, or lost, know this: the darkest moments can be the start of something new. You don't have to stay down. Stand up, fight quietly, and rebuild. Because the greatest revenge is living well. Thank you for listening to my story. If you want to hear more stories of resilience and justice, subscribe and join our community. Remember, your story isn't over yet.